All right, so just a little bit of housekeeping. This is being recorded. If you do not want your image in the recording, you can either leave yourself on mute and turn off your video camera. We do ask during the presentation that everybody keeps themselves on mute. If you do have any questions, you're more than welcome to put it in the chat, and I will give it to our panelists to answer at the end. Otherwise, at the end, when we open the floor, you're more than welcome to unmute yourself and ask your questions. Right, and I'm going to hand it over to Madge, who's going to be our moderator for tonight.
Thank you very much, Kylie. Welcome, everyone. It's good to see all of your faces and know that you're online. Thank you so much for joining us. My name's Madge Richardson, and I'm currently serving as the co-chair for the Women in Politics, along with Ann Antonucci. So Ann, would you wave to everyone in case some of them don't know you? Excellent, thank you. So Women in Politics mission is to encourage, train, and mentor women to run for all orders of government, boards of directors, and advocate for policy change. I would be remiss not to mention that Women in Politics has also launched its mentorship program. The mentorship program will start this September and run through the winter. A second mentorship session will begin in January of 2022. Kylie is going to include within the chat both the link and the email where you can contact her and register for the mentorship program. So qualified and knowledgeable mentors will assist in the program and work with mentees to enhance their skills in serving on boards and or in elected office. Registrations are to be sent to womeninpolitics2021@gmail.com with a deadline of June 15th, 2021, and Kylie is posting that within the chat. So you'll be able to access that at any time during the evening. So I'm the Executive Director of the North Superior Workforce Planning Board and have been a member of Women in Politics from its formation. I served on the inaugural board of the Northern Policy Institute for a number of years. I also served with the Township of Schreiber as councillor for a term and was elected the town's first female mayor in 2006. So I've served as Executive Vice President of the Northwestern Ontario Municipal Association, commonly known and referred to as NOMA. We've got so many acronyms to try to get familiar with. And I also sat on the Northern Caucus of the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. So once politics get in your blood, it's difficult to shake, as I'm sure our guests and many of you can attest to that or agree. I'd like to start this evening by acknowledging that the city of Thunder Bay was built on the traditional territory of the Fort William First Nation, who is a signatory to the Robinson Superior Treaty of 1850. We also recognize the contributions made to our community and region by the Métis Nation of Ontario and its people. For those of you not in Thunder Bay, we ask you to please take a moment to acknowledge the land that you are currently on. We have some prepared questions to ask of each panelist this evening, and once those are complete, we'll be turning them over to entertain questions from all of the participants. For those of you joining us tonight, please start jotting down your questions that you'd like to ask of our guests. We have limited time tonight, so if possible, please limit asking your question to our panelist, one panelist, so we can accommodate as many questions as possible. Thank you for keeping that in mind. It's my pleasure tonight to briefly introduce each of our guest panelists and to especially thank them for participating in this evening's event. I will keep the introductions brief so we can get down to the nitty-gritty of this evening's topic and to get to know these three remarkable women. So I have them in random order. The first one is Wendy Landry. Wendy is a member of Red Rock Indian Band, and she has strived to educate people about Indigenous people, striking down misconceptions and untruths as she goes. Her journey has included bringing non-Indigenous Canadians and corporations to understand the history of Indigenous people and Canadian historical relations, as well as the effects on the Indigenous people and Canada as a whole. Wendy has also been involved and has volunteered in an extended number of committees over the years with a variety of experience in different areas. She is the mayor of the Municipality of Shuniah, and she is the first First Nations woman in Ontario to serve as a mayor. In April of 2017, she was elected by her peers to represent 37 municipalities as the president of the Northwestern Ontario Municipal Association. She is also on the executive of the Associations of the Municipalities of Ontario, and she is Senior Advisor of Indigenous Relations with Enbridge Inc. Wendy and her husband, Pat, have raised 6 children. Next is Kristen Oliver. Kristen Oliver is in her first term as City Councilor for the Westfort ward. For nearly 2 decades, Kristen has worked in the political world. She began her career at the provincial level and jumped at the opportunity to shift gears and move to the municipal government, noting that this is where you have the greatest impact. Kristen was the executive director of the Northwestern Ontario Municipal Association before taking on the role of senior advisor, my goodness, my apologies, first day with my new mouth, I guess, municipal affairs and stakeholder relations at Enbridge. As a city councilor, Kristen sits on the Intergovernmental Affairs Committee, the Crime Prevention Council, and is currently the chair of the Thunder Bay Police Services Board. A graduate of Confederation College, Kristen is pleased to return to her alma mater to serve as a member on their Board of Governors and is now finishing her 3rd year as chair. A dedicated member of her community, Kristen has offered her skills in assisting many volunteer organizations. She is past president of Leadership Thunder Bay, a role that helped define her as a community builder. Born and raised in Thunder Bay, Kristen and her husband Rick are raising their 2 sons in the neighborhood where they grew up. While she definitely enjoys the warmth and fun that summer brings, come winter, she is a dedicated hockey mom and recently committed to learning how to downhill ski at the tender age of 50, all in an effort to create more family time with her growing boys. Last but certainly not least, Stephanie Ash is the CEO and president of Firedog Communications. Stephanie has 22 years of experience in delivering complex traditional and digital strategies in high-profile environments. Prior to launching Firedog Communications, she worked for agencies in London, England, Marseille, France, and Sydney, Australia. Stephanie launched Firedog in 2003, and following her quick success, she was hailed as an innovative and influential trailblazer by Canadian Marketing Magazine in 2005, and one of Canada's top 10 in the publication's Marketing Ones to Watch Awards. In 2014, she was the top 3 finalist for Canadian Woman Entrepreneur of the Year. 2019, she received the Citizen of Outstanding Achievement Award from the City of Thunder Bay in recognition of her community volunteer service. And in 2020, she was named Business Person of the Year by the Thunder Bay Chamber of Commerce. Stephanie works as a public relations advisor for some of the leading people and projects in Ontario today. She is currently mom and stepmom to 4 elementary age children in a blended family with partner Mike Nitz, and she graciously says he's the 5th child. They also have a dog and 2 rabbits. Welcome to our Fireside chat, ladies, and thank you for agreeing to participate as a guest panelist. Just before I jump into asking questions, I'd like to acknowledge and congratulate each of you as the accomplished and outstanding women that you are. In the last election, both Wendy and Kristen, you were successful in winning the election against long-standing incumbents and are forging your own way. Congratulations. That was a feat that a lot of us applauded. Stephanie, although not an elected official, you are certainly no stranger to the public eye. Congratulations on your many accomplishments. I've had the pleasure to work with each of you in a variety of roles and settings, and I'd like to commend all of you as, quite frankly, you make it look easy and you're just barely hitting your stride. So we have great hopes and support for you now and in the future. So for this prepared question portion, I'd like to encourage you, in the interest of time, that you keep your responses to approximately 2 to 3 minutes tops. And tonight's focus is public persona. So public persona is defined as the aspect of someone's character that is presented to or perceived by others. It's the image or personality that you present to other people. So with that context in mind, I've got some questions for you, ladies. Question number 1, was the probability of being more in the public eye a concern or a consideration for you? Did you consciously decide what the image or personality you would like to present to the public was? And what sort of individual guidelines did you follow, and what helped you with the decision? If we could hear from Wendy, followed by Kristen, and then Stephanie, please. Thank you.
Thanks, Madge. Thank you for that. And hello, everyone. You know what? My first comment is you're going to hold two politicians to 2 to 3 minutes. Good job. We're known to be able to talk, but I commend you on that feat. So you know what? Being in the public eye for me wasn't so much about a consideration for me as it was for my family and what it was going to do to my kids. You know, when you enter into politics and you become a public figure, you are at the mercy, I guess, or you're vulnerable to all of the online comments. You're vulnerable to all of the Facebook posts and to the criticisms. And I worried more about my kids and my family and my husband than I did myself and being in the public eye. But you know what guided me was, you know, my dad and reminding me to always remember where I came from, always remember who you are, make sure that you stay grounded, your feet are on the ground. So, you know, what I wanted to make sure that the persona, if you will, that I put forward was that of a positive and approachable and honest person who is willing to have a conversation. And you know, I was originally elected as mayor in 2014 and was acclaimed last election. And that's something that I've continued to pride myself on, is that, you know, our previous leader prior to me was of the opposite. It was not, didn't appear to be an approachable person. And I like to talk. I like people. I get energy from people, and I like to have a conversation. But my biggest piece was the ability to educate someone. So I always, maybe to a fault, made myself available and made myself approachable. And that was the persona that I wanted to put out, that I was positive, solution based, and I'm willing to hear somebody complain and, you know, take those bitchy phone calls that someone's complaining or got something to say. And that, so I'd always start out the conversation by saying, happy to take your call. I'll listen to you for the first few minutes, but then I'm asking you to provide me with a solution. And our conversations would always end up being a really positive conversation, and we might agree to disagree, but they were always appreciative of the time to vent and to have that conversation. So I think that, you know, for me, I've never hid my identity as a First Nations woman, and that was something that I wanted to make sure was included in my personality or my persona that I put out there. But most of all, staying true to who I am and being that positive, approachable, straightforward yet honest person. So I think that that's more what I worried about, was how to make sure that I stayed in line with those values, and then make sure that I'm having conversations with my kids and my family for any potential criticism or negativity that came out. And even when that does come out, I address it. I don't call people out, but, you know, send a message on Facebook or something to say, hey, happy to have a chat with regards to your comments. And sometimes they take me up on the offer and sometimes they pass.
Yeah, thank you so much, Wendy. Kristen, how about you?
So it's pretty similar to what Wendy was just explaining. You know, when I started to toss around the idea of running for city council, it was a family discussion, certainly. I mean, I was exposing my kids now to public life. One was a high school kid, and I said, and it's unfortunate in a way, because you're going to be held to a different level than your peers are. And so if you are at a party and you're drinking too much or something, it's going to reflect on me and it's going to reflect on you, where your friends can get away with it. So we had to have these really good discussions about what it means for me to be in the public eye and as a decision maker, and how I'm held to and accountable to a different level, and by extension, so is my family. Then we also discussed, you know, the way people socialize through social, or communicate through social media. You know, our city manager actually sent a couple really interesting articles in the last few weeks that, you know, it's actually being referred more to as anti-social media right now, because the positives of it are just lacking. And the criticism is almost unwarranted in a way. And I get the criticism is an important part of decision making, and it's critical to the way that you have that different perception of things that are coming in. But when it's just nasty, and the nastiness is getting worse and worse and worse, and we're seeing really good people stepping away from the political world now simply because of the exposure and their experiences in social media, that's incredibly concerning. So when I said to my boys, you know, that I'm thinking of doing this, and I said, you know, on Facebook, and they're like, stop right there. Facebook's for old people. We don't read Facebook. Our friends don't read Facebook. And I'm like, well, that's sort of true. Like, you know, you're not going to be exposed to it at the same level that everyone else is. But Unfortunately, what I didn't consider is the impact it would have on my mother and my sister, both of whom are avid Facebook readers. And it's hard. It's hard on my mom for her to see some of the things that she sees, and same with my husband too. You know, he's not an aggressive person. He doesn't like conflict. He's like, we balance each other out in so many ways, because I can be so high strung and up here, and he's always down here, like the calming force. And there's even a few people in town right now that I don't know what he would do if he saw them publicly, because they're just so vicious and vile. But, you know, we all understand that it is part of the game, and it's part of the role that you take on, and it's a challenge. But, you know, like Wendy was saying too, how you want to define yourself as the leader in the community. I want people to feel that I care about their concerns, and I'm approachable, that they see themselves reflected on city council. You know, like I'm a mom with a couple kids and I work full time, and, you know, like it's just, that makes up a certain demographic of our population, and I want them to feel that, you know, their thoughts are known at the decision-making table. So those are the types of things that we took into consideration when I decided to take the leap, and it's been an interesting time.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Stephanie, how about you?
So it's a little different for me, because I wasn't, you know, I'm not a politician, but and in my career, it was always public relations. So, you know, my first exposure to having a public brand was actually representing other people's brands. And so with that comes its own challenges, right? Because the public actually start to associate you with the brand of the companies and the organizations that you're representing. And so, you know, when I worked in Europe, I worked for a kitchen company. I was known as the kitchen girl. When I worked for Harley Medical Group. So I was the nose job girl. And so you get all these brand associations that are not actually reflective of who you are as an individual person at all. And it really didn't strike me as an issue working in bigger cities. And it really became more of an issue for me on a personal level when I moved to Thunder Bay and working in a smaller community where you don't have the luxury of population mass, right? And so I think, you know, the Bombardier file was probably one of the toughest ones for me on a personal level, because, you know, I became very quickly associated with the evil company and their spokesperson, and I was the one single-handedly responsible for the strike and all of these people, you know, and it's, so it does make you pause and start to think about, you know, what do I want to be known for? Who do I want to associate myself with personally, if this is a community that I'm running a business in, and I've got my family here. And so you do start to think about things a little bit differently in terms of who you are and what sticks with your values as an individual, and the types of businesses you want to be aligned with from a public relations perspective, and even the type of clients you want to represent and support, right? So that certainly was a learning experience for me. And just like, you know, Wendy and Kristen, I'm a little bit tougher, but it was actually my family that had made me stop and do that pulse check. Same story with my mom. My mom actually left Thunder Bay during those tough times because she couldn't handle the criticism of when she went to church and she went to the grocery store, people saying, oh, it's your daughter, and my husband hasn't gone to work for 15 weeks and it's your daughter's fault. So those things and how they affect your relationships, I think, are really important. And I don't think we think about them enough when we jump in as women to be, yeah, we're up for a challenge and we're ready to do this. And you don't think of all of those kind of peripheral pieces. And I think it's important sometimes to stop and think about that before you volunteer for everything.
Yes, thank you so much. Question number 2, is there one story or an example that you feel comfortable to share with us when that persona was tested, or perhaps you disclosed more than you had planned, or someone else did, and the circumstances resulting from the test or the disclosure? If I could hear from, if we could hear from Kristen first, then Stephanie, and then Wendy, please.
You know, I don't really know. I've been giving this question some thought, and, you know, probably at some point early into the whole, you know, social media piece, there's probably something that I put on that I would regret today. But I think one of the things that I'm really cautious of, and this actually just happened this past December, I posted a joke meme about somebody asking me, what did you get your husband for Christmas? And I said, I gave him the gift of just having to show up Christmas morning because everything's done, was basically what it was. And it was funny. It was funny because it's sort of true, but not that I'm not saying that my husband's useless. I'm just saying he's as surprised as the kids what's under the tree Christmas morning as they are, because, you know, it's just the way it is. But somebody got offended by that and sent me a private message and said, you know, when I allow my husband to get away with this type of stuff at home, I'm allowing it to happen in the workplace. And now women in the workplace are having to pick up the lack of jobs that he's doing. And it was just off the wall ridiculous. And I was like, good Lord, we could get offended by anything and everything. Like, it's seriously. And I said to this woman, it was a joke. Like, I adore my husband. He's a good guy. But seriously, like, Christmas wouldn't happen if it wasn't for me. And there's a lot of moms and wives that are sort of in the same boat. And it's, you know, it was meant as a joke. So it's kind of surprising to me that how enraged people can become just from something that I perceived as being so minute and harmless. But there will be somebody that finds something that you say inappropriate and holds you to it. And so it has me thinking, like, if I wasn't elected, would they've said that to me? Like, do they feel that I have to be held to a higher standard and accountable more to my actions? And because, you know, there's about 4 women that shared that post, and I asked them, did people private message you that you're allowing the husbands to be lazy in the workplace? And they're like, no. Okay, good, just me. All right. So anyways, so that's one of the things that, you know, I am trying to be very conscious of now, is when I see something funny, I'm like, okay, what can somebody find offensive in this, or is it worth sharing it? So I find I'm not sharing a lot of stuff right now, just because I don't feel like arguing about it on Facebook. So anyways, I'll turn it over to Steph.
Okay, thank you so much. That was a good start. Thank you for sharing that. Stephanie.
Yeah, I think it's a similar thing. I mean, we're lucky. I think if you're over 40, you got to grow up and do the fun stuff before social media existed, right? And so you didn't have to worry about a lot of this brand perception and what everybody kind of can see about your life and your personal life. And I've had plenty of run-ins over the years, and so that's actually one of the reasons why my Facebook and Instagram are actually locked down to be pretty private. And so I try to keep it to just friends and people that I know quite closely, who I know, you know, I can be myself with. And if people send me requests, I just say, you feel free to follow the Firedog, you know, my business accounts, because this is really about my kids and my personal life, and probably not what you're interested in. And so I try to keep those two things distinct, but I have the ability to do that because I'm not in politics, right? But I do work with a lot of clients and who are high profile, and you know, I think sometimes that's necessary to have a shadow account on social media that is just for your family and friends and things you want to keep personal. And a public profile that's for the world, and that's okay, because you know, you're right, I've had situations, and you know, back even when I was getting divorced, where people were sending me really odd messages about, you know, I know where you live, and I've put the pieces together about where you live from your pictures and, you know, friends' pictures on Facebook, and just really odd things. And my ex-husband was a very private person, and he was used to being behind the scenes. He was in broadcasting and didn't want to be public facing, but I would get messages before I locked things down that was, you know, your poor husband, you keep him locked at home, and you kind of are doing all this stuff, you know, publicly, and he's trapped at home with the kids while you're out having a good time at all these networking events, and you know, just really negative comments like that. And so I shut it all off, to be quite honest, because I just don't really have the energy for it. And I think as you get older, you're quite okay to learn how to filter and cut the negative out, and that's a good thing to do for your own mental health.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you so much, Stephanie. Wendy.
Yeah, no, thank you. Great points, ladies. I too, like Kristen, was really pondering this specific question and trying to recall a specific incident. There just one scenario continues to come to mind. So like I was saying, I've never hid my identity as a First Nations woman and always been really proud of my culture. And that was very part of my campaigning and part of my my persona that I put out there. And so when started to go door to door, thinking back now, there's things that I would probably do differently, but I literally went door to door by myself alone and never thought anything of it. I mean, I'm a pretty strong personality. I think I could defend myself pretty good. And I went to went to one house, and there was a really, really ginormous, large sign of my opponent, the person that I was challenging for the mayor's seat. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to go to that house anyway. So I walked up to the house, and I literally left my car running because I figured I'm just going to be here for 2 minutes. And I knocked on the door, and I said, hi, I'm Wendy Landry. And he goes, I know who you are. You're that Indian that's running to be mayor of our community. And I was shocked. I was like caught off guard. I haven't really been I've been very fortunate that I haven't had a lot of experiences of direct racism to my face. And I was really caught off guard, and I had to, think on my feet a little bit. And I said to him, yes, I'm First Nations, and I realize you have a sign on probably supporting the person that I'm running against, but I just thought that I would give you an opportunity to meet me so that you could say that you had met me and find out who I am and what I'm about, and just have a quick conversation. I said, but I totally respect the fact that you're supporting somebody else. I just wanted to introduce myself and show that you have a choice if you wish to do so. And so he calmed down a little bit and started asking me questions. And then within a couple of minutes, he said, just come in and sit down at my table for a minute. And I have a policing correctional background, and I worked for police foundations, and I didn't think about personal safety or anything. I went in, I sat down at the table because I wanted to be that approachable, honest, positive person. And here was an opportunity to talk to somebody that was potentially voting for my opponent. And I sat there, and we had a fantastic conversation. It really turned around and turned out to be great. And he will say to this day that when I was leaving, he said, is your car running? And I said, oh yeah, I left it running because I didn't think I was going to be here very long. And it was almost an hour later. And I left, and he said to me before I left, he said, you've got my vote. He said, because you had enough balls to come to my door when I had the opponent's sign on my front yard. And, so I think for me, it's the story that sticks in my head, that, where I put out a persona, I put out that I was approachable, I put out that I was honest and wanted to have those conversations, and I potentially put myself in a vulnerable position. But at the same time, it all turned out well. It could have turned out really ugly, but it turned out well. And that story really does stick with me because I was true to myself. I didn't deny anything. I was able to educate the man on some myths and some misunderstandings about Indigenous people. And it turned into a really, really healthy conversation. I was really, really happy that I did it at the end of the day. But I'm not really sure if that speaks to your question, Madge, but that was the one story that continued to come up in my mind when I was pondering this question. But just a couple of things about what the other ladies were saying, the sharing and liking on Facebook is definitely, I've learned from that too, because I get called out if I like something or if I shared something. I've been told, if you're the mayor, shouldn't you be not supporting something like that? And just because I shared it. And having the two Facebooks, I do have my mayor's Facebook page, and then I have my personal one. And it's amazing to me day after day after day how quickly that gets out of hand. I just actually before this call sent a message because somebody wanted to add me on Facebook, and I sent a message similar to what Stephanie was saying, this is my private page. How do we know each other? What are you looking for? And, apologize if we've met before and I don't remember, that kind of thing. But it really does get out of hand quickly. And my girls always comment, oh my God, Mom, you have way too many friends on Facebook. And I probably share too much. So I'm a little bit more conscientious of what I share. And that's really challenging sometimes to still be true to who you are and try to still manage that public figure that you want to be. Hopefully that answers your question. Sorry.
It does very much so. No, thank you so much. It also speaks to, I think, all of your commitment to be the genuine you and share as much of you as you can in an honest and straightforward manner. So I think that's great. So thank you so much for sharing those thoughts and that. I do have one more question or a couple more questions for you. So do any of you have any lessons learned? A lot of you have already spoken to this, but if you can think of anything else that you want to share with all the participants tonight, have you learned any do's or don'ts for the listeners and women considering whether or not to, or have decided on throwing their hat in the ring? So if we could have Stephanie kick this one off, then Wendy, followed by Kristen, please. Thank you so much.
Yeah, my kind of takeaways and recommendations for people, and I work behind the scenes a lot with politicians too, and business leaders, is, be yourself. Authenticity to me, I think, goes a really long way. Times have changed. It's not the 80s and 90s anymore where you have to wear a fake persona to get credibility. We have, I think, one of the benefits of social media and even COVID is we're allowed to be human a little bit more than ever before. I think that's really happened. And so, within limits, I think it's, define what you want to be known for. Like what do you want to be known for and by whom? And then that's the persona you should live out in the world, period. Whether it's on social media and the work that you do and the projects, that or the issues that you align yourself with. But it's got to feel right. It's got to match your core values. And if it's not authentic, people see right through it, and you won't have any longevity, and you won't enjoy it. I think that's really the key. I mean, we do things for enjoyment, or I hope we do, and if you're not doing stuff that really gets you going in the morning, then why bother? So trying to live a fake life and live out a fake persona is going to be exhausting and not bring you much joy. So that to me is what I've learned is figure out what you want to be known for, what's really matters to you, be authentic, show who you really are. Don't be afraid to make mistakes and own it if you do. And that's really for me what I've learned at this point in my career.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Really good points. And it's true, if you stay to your values, chances are you won't make as many slip-ups.
Right.
Instead of trying to remember what persona am I supposed to be doing?
Who am I today? Yeah, no, who's got time for that?
Excellent. Thank you so much. Wendy, please.
Yeah, no, great points, Stephanie. Thank you. So my list of do's turned out to be bigger than my list of don'ts, and I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But I'll go to the list of don'ts right off the bat. And what I've learned over the years is that don't engage in a public argument on social media. Invite people to have the conversation, but the minute you start commenting and arguing on social media, it's just going to blow up. It's not going to turn out good. No one's going to get your point. It's going to just go to places you've never even dreamed it would go. So don't engage in public discussions and public arguments. I mean, offer people the opportunity to have a phone call or private chat or something like that. And I've been told, oh, you want to have a private chat because you don't want everyone to hear what it is you have to say. I'm like, no, I'm just not going to engage in a public argument over the internet. Happy to have a conversation, right? And if we were able to meet in person, I would be happy to do that. But my list of do's is much larger. So, I do encourage you to make sure that you have family support. We've all spoke about our family and how this affects our family, and without family support, you won't be able to do this. You just won't be able to do it. And that means, I have 5 grown children. We have conversations all the time of things that are coming up and things that are on either the news. My husband goes to work and gets, razzed a little bit about, oh, saw your wife on the news again last night. And you know, he's the quiet, non-confrontational type, kind of like Kristen and I are married to very similar men. And, you know, he's learned to live with that a little bit too. And the little bit of nudging that he gets, oh, your wife was on TV again last night. And, you know, they make comments and to him. And so to help support him through those times when he gets that nudging, but at the same time, he needs to help and support me when I'm feeling like things are getting to be too much or in a sticky situation. I also suggest to encourage the conversations, to engage with people, to have a speak your truth, and to know when you know something and to know when you don't know something. So don't pretend you know something if you don't know it. And it's okay, and people appreciate for us as politicians to say, you know what, I don't know the answer to that. I don't know. I have to look into it, or I will definitely find someone for you to talk to specifically, or let me find out more information. Be okay with being real, because a lot of times they expect us to have the answers. Even my husband does. Like, somebody phoned me today and wanted to know they were going to buy a property in some part of Shuniah, and they wanted to know if they can build a house or what. I was like, I don't know that. And he's like, well, you should know that. You're the mayor. I'm like, no, I have people who know that stuff. I don't know if that specific property, what they can do or can't do there. I'd have to go look it up or ask someone for help. And, you know, so a lot of people expect you to have knowledge that you don't necessarily have on your fingertips. So it's okay to say that. And I find that politicians get themselves into trouble sometimes when they try to give an answer to something that they don't know the answer to. So be like Steph said, be authentic, be yourself, speak your truth. Take the calls. Don't be afraid of the calls, and make sure that you're able to have those conversations. But the biggest part of it is make sure that you enjoy the game, because politics is a game. And the only reason why I survive in this game is because you surround yourself with good people. You're only going to be as good as the people you're surrounded by. And, you know, Kristen and I are good friends. People know that, but she's my sounding board. I have different sounding boards and different people for different things, but make sure that you have a group of people that I call safe friends, that you can have those conversations, even if it's a, geez, Murphy, I need to talk about this. This is what and just vent and get it out and have a conversation to somebody who understands what that sounds like or what that means. So surround yourself with good people, have those safe friends you can have the conversations with. And by all means, make sure you got the family support and enjoy the ride, like Stephanie said, because politics just gets me going. I can have a great conversation about any level of politics at any time, as you see already. Probably got me all going. Had nothing to do with the coffee I just had, but you know, surround yourself with those people, because that's what you're going to need to be successful in this world.
Thank you so much. Excellent suggestions, and thanks for sharing yourself with us. Kristen.
So I completely agree with both Stephanie and Wendy have just said, and, you know, and it's really important. The support system that you have is what's going to carry you through. You know, it's like Wendy said, like Wendy and I talk a lot. We're each other's sounding boards, and I find a lot of comfort, because we understand it in a way, like even our spouses don't understand. Like they're supportive to us in other ways, but unless you're living this, breathing it, consuming it day in and day out, it's a blood sport. I mean, it's not even just a game. It is a blood sport. Like you will get victimized, and you'll get wounded. And you know, there's days where I always say to my mom in particular, when she's like, I can't believe that, or whatever. And I'm like, but Mom, it's more of a reflection on their character than it is on mine. And I keep saying that to myself all the time, because it's true. I mean, people can come up with the persona they believe that I am because of the way I voted on something or my comments on something without even knowing me. Or I find it interesting when people are like, oh, I can't stand her. I'm like, I don't even know you. I literally go to sleep at night. I have no idea who you are. If I'm taking rent up in your brain, well, yay for me, I guess, right? Like it's an interesting place to be. But, and I think one of the comments that I really enjoy though is when I spend time with people and they're like, you're so normal. And I think, well, that's an interesting comment, but I think it speaks to sort of what Stephanie was saying. Like there's a perception or persona that, you know, like decision makers are supposed to be the be all end all. I don't see that at all. And I think maybe that's where I struggle a little bit too, because I always worked in administration. So I was always the worker bee that flew under the radar and got all the stuff done. And now flipping it over to being the decision maker, I struggle with it because I like getting the work done and making the recommendations. And this is why I think you should do this. And I think that that's sometimes, you know, where you got to try to find where you align with your greatest strengths. And so it is a little bit of a challenge some days. I'm not going to deny that, because I would much rather just get the stuff done than be the face of it.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you so much. I think one of the neatest things for tonight, again, I don't see you very often, although you're certainly within, you know, I do see you periodically in that, but I don't get to work with you closely or often enough. And so it's just nice to have an opportunity to have a chat with you, because I think you're not only remarkable women, you're just really nice, genuine and intelligent, and somebody I'd like to have come over to my patio for a wine as soon as the weather gets nice. You know what I mean? So I think it's just, it's great to have you here tonight. And it's really good. You made some really interesting comments that some of them have really resonated with me. But the advice and the things that you've learned and how you've processed all of that and become stronger and really women to admire out of it, I think it's just awesome. So thanks so much. I do have one last question though, and this is one that I just cannot ask or cannot not ask for the evening. Might be unfair, but I've got to do it. So what does 2022 have in store for you and your public persona? Stephanie, then Wendy, followed by Kristen. Can you share any with us?
Sure, and I'm not running for politics, so that's I'll set that right straight because people keep asking me. You know, I am really enjoying my career right now and my family, and we're kind of at a sweet spot. I'm involved in some really great projects. Some of them are, you know, really challenging for me, and I love to continue to learn. And I'm working on some really exciting Indigenous relations projects in the region, and I'm working on some other projects with police services and all kinds of different challenging projects. And so I'm just having a lot of fun. My kids are a wonderful age where they're really kind of fun to be around. So I'm just going to enjoy in the next 12 months, hopefully a return to normal, where we can get back in the office. I miss my team. We haven't been working together face to face in over 12 months now. So I miss my people, and looking forward to, you know, doing more in the community, like I do on boards and committees, and doing things behind the scenes where I'm most comfortable, and just doing things with my kids. So I think COVID's made us appreciate work-life balance a little more. I'm striving for it. I struggle to find it, I'll be honest, and it's where I need the most help. But I'm a work in progress, as they say on that front. So we'll see what happens.
Goodness, aren't we all? All right, next, Wendy.
Yeah, thanks, Madge, for the question. And, you know, just to the COVID point, you know, a year ago or 14 months ago, I guess now, you know, prior to that, you know, there wasn't a week that didn't go by that Kristen and I weren't on a plane to somewhere and traveling back. She was mentioning today that, you know, 5 years ago today, we were on our way back from Timmins, I think she said, or somewhere at a Phenom conference. You know, I wasn't home. I lived out of a suitcase. I had 3 suitcases packed all times, one for 2 days less, one for 2 to 5 days, and one for 5 days plus. So, you know, COVID really has given me the opportunity to stay home for a year. I think my family had to adjust to that more than I did. Well, no, maybe not, because I had to adjust to not being on a plane with my sidekick all the time. But you know, we Kristen and I supported each other through all those travels and all those family times away from home, and to just come to an abrupt stop has made a huge change for me. And I'm not very good at work-life balance, and I'm not any better at it during COVID. I'll tell you that right now. I'm on the computer by 8 a.m. and I'm glued to the computer, and I don't even know how I'm going to sustain this type of meeting and work life when I am able to travel again. But For 2022, I am going to run for another term as mayor of the municipality of Shuniah. Some of you might know that I was just acclaimed again as the president of NOMA, and I have things that we have work to do. So we have some other stuff that we need to get done. I'm not quite, finished what we've started, and we have a new executive director. I think Andrea is on to the call tonight too, and working with the different levels of government and a wonderful group of leaders within our NOMA land, and we have projects, we have stuff to finish, and in Shuniah we do as well. We also have a new councilor on Shuniah, and I'm hoping that through the years of experience that she'll be ready to take on the reins of mayor someday, when maybe in the next election 2026 or something. We'll see where things are at for me and for her, and get some projects done. But I'm going to go back to the work and family, because the one thing that I've really found is in the last year was I really need that disconnect. So 8 a.m. I'm going to wake everybody up here. We're going to the bush. Our trailer's in the deep in the heart of the bush. I need to put my feet on the ground and connect with Mother Earth, and disconnect from online land, and concentrate on some of that stuff. So 2022, I'm looking to run again as mayor, and like I said, I was acclaimed again for another 2-year term with NOMA, so that'll run into that time period as well. So thanks for the question.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Congratulations on the acclamation. That's very
Thanks.
cool.
Thank you.
Kristen.
So, I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing yet. I started, I don't know. There's good days, there's bad days. There's days where I'm like, oh my God, October 2022 can't come quick enough. And then there's days like, oh, I could do this for another term. But I did start a new role back in November with Enbridge, and I do have the Northern region, which is massive. It goes from the Manitoba border to Aurelia, and there's a number of communities. I love the municipal work. Again, like I said, I've been in the administrative role for so long, our administration role for so long, that I just love I love the connectivity and the work that I do, and I get a lot out of my day job. It challenges me in really, really rewarding ways, and so I quite enjoy that. And I don't know what the travel schedule is going to look like again once we start traveling, and so I don't know if I can guarantee that I will be here for every Monday meeting, and I don't know how fair it is to my constituents if I can't make that commitment. So I mean, I'm sort of playing it out by ear, or playing it out a little bit, and we'll see. I mean, I thoroughly enjoy being a city councilor, although I will say, for someone who's been in the political world for 20 something years, this has been the most eye-opening experience of my entire life. I think the pandemic certainly is playing a role in that. I don't know how it can't. Like, people are not in a good place right now mentally. Our business communities are really, really suffering. And, I do have a motion going on Monday to talk about re-examining the whole regional framework piece again, because like, it's hard, it's challenging to watch what's happening, and I'll debate that on Monday. But the job itself as being a city councilor and being accountable to the people in this community, I think is really important work. Is it thankless? 100%. It's thankless. The decisions we've had before us in the last 2.5 years have been incredibly community decisive. Like, it's crazy, I think. And you're sort of seeing that reflected at the council table a little bit with the 7-6 votes, but a lot of these issues are essentially how the community feels too. And then you have curveballs that come at you that make you have to re-examine the decisions that you're making. And we, as I'm chair of the police services board right now, and as Stephanie alluded to, she's doing some work with us right now to get the business plan or strategic plan in place, and to determine how we deliver policing in this community. And we know that there's some reports that have been very, put the lens on Thunder Bay Police and the Police Services Board. And these are things that really keep me up at night, and they take a lot out of you emotionally and physically. It's draining. The interesting part is my husband across the hall here right now, he's probably the guy that gets it the most. Like, I get a crappy email and I'm like, can you believe this? And he's hearing it. Like, he's the one who says, you got to run again. Like, 2022, how can you not even consider it? You've got to run again. And he's like, you're good at what you do. Yeah, people might not like you or they not like the decisions you're making, but I hear more often than not that people are happy with the work you're doing. You know, he teaches at Westgate, so he's around Westfort people a lot. And I think that, you know, so you got to take all of this into consideration and how we move forward. But I mean, if my greatest cheerleader can stand another 4 years of me saying, can you believe this? Then that's got to have some value.
That's excellent.
And
That's
if I
good
could
news.
just add, Madge, I mean, it's, you know, Kristen and I are very, very fortunate, and I probably should have mentioned it earlier that we both work for Enbridge, and we work for a company that, you know, supports us in our political work and is happy to have us there. And that's a huge piece to our survival in our political life, right? That we have an employer that is supportive of us being in these positions. So I think that's a huge piece just to add to the comments. Thanks. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point because, and it resonates with me, and I won't get into it, but I was virtually going for 7 years with no vacation because all of my vacation had to go for municipal conferences and representing the town, right? So it was tough. So it can wear you down for sure. But again, I want to thank all three of you. Like, it's just tremendous to get to know you a little bit better. And I think you're all great women, and we're going to be watching you and cheering you on and being supportive because I think that's another thing that women have to remember is to be more supportive of each other. I don't think that's necessarily the default or the first thing that comes to mind, but the more and more that you support other women, the more that it really reflects positively on the gender, and people realize the strength and the perspective and the intelligence and the care that women bring to everything that they do, and especially in leadership positions. So anyway, thank you so much. It's great getting to know you. Thank you for joining us. And I know that everyone that's joined the call tonight have some questions for you. And so I would like to turn it over to them for sure. So if I could, though, for anyone who's asking a question from the audience, I have taken up a lot of time, but again, we wanted all of the panelists to respond so you could get more of an idea of them and who they are and what they stand for and their values and approach. But for your questions, if you could narrow it down to one of the panelists to respond, and then we should be able to entertain more questions. So there's a number of different options. Again, you can draft your questions within the chat function, or you can raise your hand if you're on video or join the video stream, and I'll be able to watch for those. As Kylie mentioned, she's going to be monitoring the chat function so we can see it, and we do have a question there. So to perhaps kick it off, I'd like to do that. And the question is from Anne Antonucci, my co-chair, and she wants to direct it to Stephanie. So please, Anne, take it away.
Thank you, Madge, and thank you to all three ladies. I know each of you in different ways, and I was so happy to see you join us tonight. So my question is to Stephanie, and it's sort of a question about campaigning as a female. Do you find when you're working with different both leaders and political figures that the public persona when you're working with them is different when you're dealing with a male candidate as opposed to a female candidate?
I don't know that it's the public persona is different. I certainly, from my experience, women have a tougher time establishing credibility, especially if they're not well known already in the business community, for example. And, you know, I got to work with Patty Hadju when she first ran for, you know, locally here for MP. And, you know, she had a background that wasn't necessarily business. It was nonprofit, working for the shelter house and the health unit. And so, you know, she had a tougher time kind of really asserting her, you know, her presence and equality, I guess I would say, in terms of being you know, a good solid candidate for that position. And now look where she's gone to. So, you know, I think that, yes, I mean, I think there's more misconceptions about women, you know, that you have to kind of jump over at the front end to get it out there, who you are, what you're about, and what you stand for, and demonstrate that you're a credible candidate, period. Because certainly people see female mom, all of those things, I think, first before they see kind of what you're actually standing for. And I think the challenge is, and that as I get older, I don't see those things as negatives anymore. When I see a female candidate and I see mom and, you know, homemaker and whatever it is first, I see that as an asset, you know, because we know how tough that is. But we're still working in a world where somehow having, you know, a business credential and being male somehow still stands stronger publicly overall. I think it's shifting, and I think that's why we want more women to run, because I've been at home with 4 kids for, you know, the last little while. I wouldn't want to do it full time, like being a, you know, a homemaker and dealing with 4 kids all day. Put me in a boardroom any day of the week. I'm much more comfortable. So it's an easier job. So, you know, who's to say, you know, what qualifies you to be credible or not to be able to run for politics? I think it goes back to, you know, your passion, what your values are, you know, are you a hard worker, all of those other skills that are required to do a good job. And that's what we should be judging people on. So selling yourself from that perspective, I think, is really important.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Now, I believe the next one is from Larissa.
Unfortunately, she had to go by the looks of it.
Okay, so I can read it. First of all, she's from Martin Falls First Nation tonight, and she asked to run to do some field work, but she also wanted to comment to say great event. She wished she didn't have to leave because she's taking so much out of this one. So thank you so much, ladies, for making this such a success. She also has a question, and I think if any of the panelists can answer that, or we can get back to her as Women in Politics collectively. But her question is, how can I learn more about politics in general, as she's a total newbie? Does anyone want to tackle that, or would you like to throw it back to the group and we can answer her at a later date?
Well, I think that that Kylie kind of answered it for her, that you know, that becoming a mentee is one of the first ways to go with women in politics, right? And that's the program that we've been doing for so long. But also just to start volunteering and start getting to know your community and know your public, and to start to raise your profile is the first place to start, because you're not going to get elected if people don't know who you are. So now's the time. If you're thinking of 2022, now's the time to start, you know, volunteering in wherever your kids go to school or in your community events, and start getting to know people so that you're not a new face and a new name when it comes time for elections.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Wendy.
I think actually one of the other points too is that if you're interested in politics, but you're not quite sure where your political philosophy aligns, maybe research the major parties and try to determine and see where you align yourself that way as well too, because it will come out at some point. You're going to start to you'll determine where you tend to see value and how you make your decisions. And you know, like for me, when I was 16 years old, and I've told this story, and I'm sure a few of you have heard it, but when I was 16, Lynn McLeod was door knocking and had come to my house, and my parents weren't home, and she had a pamphlet, and she had a daughter on the back on the back, she had a picture of her family, and she had a daughter named Kristen. And I thought, this woman's a genius. Like, she's got a daughter named Kristen. Like, well, where do you want it? I'm a candidate. And my parents were staunch NDP supporters. Anyways, I said, oh, like, so I started reading this stuff. Then I started like getting more information about her. And then I said to my parents, oh, you should read this stuff. Like, this is really interesting what she's doing here. And then I was in economics in high school, and we started talking about the parties and sort of how they, you know, their philosophy around spending and social programs and whatnot. And I remember sitting at the dinner table one night, and I said, yeah, I think I'm a liberal. And I remember my dad, the cutlery hits the plate. He's like, what are they teaching you in school? But I will say this, they did allow me to have that opportunity to research it for myself and to figure out where, you know, what I thought was the best direction to go. So I think that that's a really important piece, is to, you know, kind of look and see where you sort of align with what political party to sort of draw, your powers from.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Okay, so our next question is from Janet. She wants to know, what is your best self-care tip? Can anyone give one from all of you if there's time allowing? Joyce, don't worry, I haven't forgotten about your question. I figured you're to be left for last because yours will have a lot to build on.
Actually, just before anyone answers that, I'm just conscious of the time. So I'd like to ask all the panelists if they feel comfortable and they have the time to answer one or two more questions. And
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
okay, excellent. Thank you so much. Okay, Kylie, do you want to read the question, please, or have Janet?
It's the best
Janet,
care,
you
the
can feel
best
free
care.
to unmute yourself if you want, Janet, and then you can ask yours.
Okay. The thing I'm just so impressed with all of you because you put in so much time and effort, but at what point, especially if you go through, say, something that's, people are, criticizing you on Facebook, etc. What do you do? Like just a quick self-help tip. Do you meditate? Do you take time to read? Do you walk, etc.? That's all.
I phoned Kristen.
I'm insanely vain. Every 3 weeks, nails. Every 5 weeks, hair. And those are my favorite.
And a massage.
things to do.
And a
Oh,
massage.
I go for a massage
Every
once
month a massage.
Acupuncture
Yeah.
once a month. Yeah.
They're all great.
I'm very good
Yeah.
to myself. I'm very good to myself. And
Kristen and I often tease each other because I'll say, well, I have an appointment, and she'll say massage, hair, or nails.
I know. I don't know about you guys, but I'm going cold turkey here, and it's frustrating not being able to do
I cut
that
my hair
kind of
this
stuff.
morning because I was so frustrated.
My husband's been cutting my hair.
Yeah, but I did. It's completely.
Oh, I love it.
Whatever.
Yeah, and you know what? Thanks for the question, Janet. And I'll be honest with you, I do 2 to 3 weeks in Jamaica in January. I've been very, very adamant about going every year. I have felt that I haven't gone this year, so I am missing my time away. And I spend my weekends camping with a place where I have no telephone access and no email access. So I totally disconnect on weekends from May till October. And then even in October, we do a lot of hunting. So we do a lot of even fall camping. So that's my my best self-care.
Excellent.
And Jen, I can tell you, I'm terrible at this. It's, as I said earlier, it's a work in progress for me. This keeps being my new commitment to myself every year, but I struggle with it. I'll be honest, and COVID, like Wendy said earlier, has not helped me. I'm working at 6 a.m. and I'm still working at 12 p.m. So they're long days right now. And I used to travel was my kind of reward to myself. So we'd work really hard and take a few trips a year, because if I don't leave the country, I'm always working. That's kind of what I find. It comes with me. So it's been a hard 12 months just not being able to get away and do that. So my thing right now is gardening. It was my birthday this week and I got a pressure washer, which I feel like is going to let me let loose on my whole property just for fun, because I feel like just seeing everything being cleaned will help, and a ton of gardening tools. So I'm going to go out digging dirt and just try and, get outside and because it's work and I still feel like it's productive, relaxing, if that makes sense. So, but yeah, it's, yeah.
Happy birthday, Steph.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
One more year.
Great. May babies are the best.
Yeah, we got a lot around here. There's a lot of May birthdays. My daughter's birthday this weekend too. So this weekend I'm trying to pretend how to do a birthday party again in COVID.
I know. Yeah. Excellent. Thanks, Stephanie. Anything you want to add, Kristen?
No, like I said, nails, hair, massage.
Yeah.
First.
And they're all good points.
They're
excellent. Yeah. Thank you so much. Do we have time for one more question, Kylie?
Yes, I got two more. I have two more questions. We had one from Jody and then we had one from Joyce.
Hi, ladies. Hi, everyone. I'm Jody Wilson, and thank you. This is the first time I've joined your group, and I've enjoyed it immensely. I have mad love for all of you. You are all strong, passionate women, just like myself. And so this has just been wonderful. Thank you. So the question I have is, I'm just curious, being a strong, passionate woman, sometimes there is that little bit of self-doubt from time to time. And I have a very encouraging partner who always tells me not to worry about what other people think, about what you do and decisions and choices you make. But I was curious just to hear about how you deal with the notion sometimes of what other people think. And I know, Kristen, you talked about it a little bit tonight through some of the comments and things and feedback you get on social media. But just in general, I think us as women, we're nurturers still. And sometimes that still comes around, as strong as we all may be.
First. And that's a really good point. And I think that's why women in politics is such an important dynamic, that is the nurturing. And you want everybody to get along, and I try to find balance. But it's really interesting because I find it fascinating that when a decision goes one way or the other, you're going to have a group saying they're not listening to me, they're not listening to us, they're not listening to the taxpayers. But then you've got the other half saying, yay, they listened to me, they did what I wanted them to do. And so for every decision that's tough, you're gonna hear from the people that are happy with what you did too, right? And sometimes it's validating because what your thoughts are on it, just to hear from people that aren't tied to you, where they have to say nice things, just to give you that credibility that what decision you made was sort of the right way to go, and they'll tell you one way or the other. And I think that that's important to understand, that you're going to hear from it either way. Like Mark Figlomini, he's the former mayor of Scriber. He always says, you're not going to make everybody happy, you're not ice cream. And I think about that all the time. I'm not going to make everybody happy, we're not ice cream. And so you just live with it.
I think, I'm going to go back to my comment about surrounding yourself with good people, because, it's, I think it's only human to want to be liked. And in the world of politics, you're not always going to be liked, and nor is everybody going to agree with you. And, Kristen and I chatted one time. I think there was some post on Facebook. I can't remember if it was about who is it about, but somebody said maybe you should spend more time in the gym or something like that. And, they really tend to really hit on spots. Like nobody needs to tell me if I need to lose weight. Okay. Like I'm the first person that knows if I need to lose weight or not. And so, when they start hitting a little bit below the belt, as they say, and make, personal comments and stuff like that, it gets a little bit harder to deal with. But I mean, I think as we get older, we tend to not let those things bother us as much. And I think it all depends on how you're doing. If you're, there's some days I'm on the top of my game, and there's some days I just can't take anymore and I'm not on the top of my game. And, those are the days where you have those people that are surrounding you, and you give them a call and you just say, you got a minute, send a text, right? Got a minute to chat. And you started off with, I just need to vent, and we talk each other through it. And I mean, I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate my relationship with Kristen, because I saw the question there about living in a man's world, working in a man's world. Like, holy man, we could have wine at your house, Madge, and really have a long conversation on that one, because that's a huge conversation. But I mean, but it's really, really important to have those positive people around you, because there are going to be days that you just can't take anymore. And really, like, you got to make sure you got red lips on if you're going in the media and you're going for an interview. And, I'm looking at Kristen, do I have my lips bright enough? Like, you're always checking your appearance before you go on media even, and how's your hair and everything, because that's the stuff that they're going to grab at if they can. And if you're not on the top of your game that day, it's going to just get you just that little bit easier than maybe another day. But having those people around you to have that conversation with, to say, don't worry about it. Like Kristen says, it's, if you're taking up space in their head for silly reasons, you just have to have somebody to have a really good girlfriend chat about it, or with your spouse or your partner.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you.
And Jody, I think, one thing I've learned over the years is that if everybody around you agrees with you, you're doing something wrong. right? Because if you're surrounding yourself with yes people,
That's
that's you're not making change. And to make change happen and to create good or create positive change, you're gonna ruffle feathers, you're gonna piss people off, you're gonna not be popular, and so if you're only trying to find the path of least resistance, you're probably going with what's already, you're not probably creating much change or doing anything differently. So I think,
That's a really good point.
in a leadership role, I've learned that I know I'm doing something right if not everybody's happy with me.
Great point. Thanks, ladies.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you so much. One of the things that always amazed me when you got into politics, but you're right about the public or your physical appearance. I think so much consideration and weight is given to that for women in their appearance. And it's kind of like, when was the last time that someone commented on someone's spaghetti being on their tie? Or are you wearing the same shirt as you did yesterday with that blue suit? You know what I mean? Like, they don't do that to men. So I often wondered if I was putting a lot of that weight on myself, but I believe a lot of people do. And that's a society or social thing, right? But yeah, so there are some points in just having a uniform or something, and then they're not going to comment about it, or we should all just wear a standard suit and a tie,
I know, but then you do that, then they start telling you that you're looking like a guy. So I don't know. I don't think we can win if we do or win if we don't.
Probably not. So again, we're doing something right.
You can't win at all. I've been told, don't be blonde because nobody will take you seriously. Don't be too thin because you look like a bimbo. Oh, now you're not showing enough cleavage. You wear too much conservative clothes. You'll get more clients. You flash your legs a little bit more. You always wear pantsuits. Why do you do that? It's like, okay. I don't, and unfortunately though, I think young women listen too much to that narrative, right? And it really takes over instead of focusing on, their smarts and what they're bringing to a role and all of those things, and forgetting about the exterior stuff. I think is really, I think it's getting worse with social media, to be quite honest. And you see that a lot with younger women, especially, that they're very self-conscious of how they look as opposed to what they're bringing in terms of their value to any position.
I think what drives me the most insane though is when a man says to me, you need to smile more. You should smile. Oh my God. What language do you want to be told to often because you're about to get told?
Yeah.
Yeah, you look too serious. You look too serious. Yeah.
I was going to say about the clothes business. When you look at the women that are high profile on CTV, look at Lisa LaFlamme, the women CNN commentators, you never ever see them in the same dress twice. I mean, this is the message that they're getting. I mean, Andrew Chung, the CBC guy, he wears the same suit all the time and he looks great. And Adrian Arsenal, actually, I have seen her in repeat clothing. But I mean, that's just a symbol of very tip of the iceberg of what women have to deal with in politics.
Yes, very much so.
Man's world.
Actually, I just saw an article last week that really irritated me because it was of Kate Middleton, and it was dresses that she's worn this year that she wore in 2017, and she wore this dress in 2012. And it's like, why do we care? Why are we even putting this together? Like,
not a fashion.
Yeah.
Find also it's the other way too, because I enjoy fashion and I enjoy makeup, and pink is my favorite color. And it's almost that sometimes you get looked down on for that, because you know what? I do like wearing feminine clothes and I do like wearing high heels. And then it's assumed that because I enjoy the pretty things of life, that therefore then I must not be a good leader. I must not have that side of things. So it kind of, there's no middle ground for that. And like you said, Wendy, if you go the other way, well, just ask Hillary Clinton, the pantsuits, right? Now you're trying to be a man. But then if you try and be a woman, well, then there's no way you could possibly do what it is you're trying to do. So there's that too.
But you do wear the same dress twice, right? You're
Yeah,
not,
I think I have so much room in my
not a different one every day, right?
Well, I try, but
We
no,
just can't afford it.
no, I don't have the.
True. High expectations. But I think we have one more question that we'll entertain, and then we'll have to end for the evening, I think. Thank you so much, ladies, for agreeing to stay on a little bit later. But the last one is from Joyce.
Yeah, well, we were just talking about it.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I know what you guys mean about the way you present yourself. We're expected to look a certain way. We're expected to act a certain way. Like Anne said, pink's your favorite color. Just because you wear it, everyone's like, oh, you're a girly girl, you're all bubbly. When I worked in the cosmetics department, I would change up the colors every day. I think Madge has seen me with the black lipstick on, and I'd have people come up to me and they're like, oh, you must be so dark and grumpy. And I'm just all of a sudden all bubbly. And they're like, oh, you're not what you look like. And that's what a lot like you guys were saying, you have to look a certain way and they're expecting that. But when you're not, it's like, oh, I now actually have to think about this.
Well, it's good sometimes to think about it, because I can't tell you how many times Kristen and I showed up in a same blue blazer, because we're all shopping at Reitman's downtown, or, you know, sometimes we have to talk about it because we've showed up in the same blazer and a black dress underneath or something. So there is times where you have to coordinate. We've learned that one too, but definitely it's an unfair judgment for sure.
Well, we're
I
interchangeable
think-
too. People can't figure out half the time which one's which. Like I get mistaken for Wendy and she gets mistaken for me all the time.
I do think though that we still have to be professional, and maybe I'm old fashioned on this front, but you know, as much as it's good to be your authentic self and express yourself, I do think that if you want to establish credibility, whether it's in business or whether it's in politics, that you have to present yourself professionally. And I was ranting about this week. I've been interviewing all week for some jobs with my company, and people are showing up to interviews with me looking like they just crawled out of bed. And, you know, you can be the smartest person, but it just takes points down in my mind that you don't know how to present yourself professionally. And it doesn't mean being girly or wearing makeup. It doesn't mean, you know, it's not about what you wear or the colors. It's just about being well-maintained and professionally presented. And I think if you want to have a public profile, regardless of what it is, you got to know how to put yourself together to be at least clean and look like you made some effort.
Yeah. Excellent points.
Good
Thank
point.
you so much, ladies. All right, Kylie, I believe
I don't know if we have
it.
time to go to Joyce's question, Madge. Are we going to talk about Joyce's question, or we kind of already joked about it?
Well, we did actually,
Yeah.
but she does bring up a point that we haven't really directly touched on, and that's is the boys club alive and well?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And
To know
Go
how
ahead,
to play in
Kristen.
it. Just
Come on.
know how to play in it. That's
Amazing.
all.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just part of the knowing your audience and knowing managing personalities. How about that?
Yes. Yeah, it truly is. Yeah. Stick handling.
Yeah,
People
stick
and-
handling is a good one. Again,
and
having
things.
a good venting partner is a way of lasting in that world a little bit. And sometimes it's just fun to play along and play with those egos a little bit too. So
It
You know,
is.
it's so funny because I say this to Wendy all the time. I think one of the things that best prepared me for a woman in politics working with men in politics is being a mother of boys. And it's, you know, I don't want to discount what, you know, having a daughter. I don't have a daughter, so I don't know, but I do know that I have two boys that are incredibly competitive, and they both think they're the most amazing thing in the entire world. And they have egos the size of this house. And I am a referee, and I'm trying to parent this, but I find that some of the strategies I use work really well around the council table too.
And even in the
Anyways,
even in
I'll
the
leave it
broader
there.
even in the broader spectrum, not even so much around the council table, but into like, you know, our NOMA world and our provincial world, and into those meetings that we're having with whatever governments in power at the moment. You know, it's getting to know those individuals and how to manage the personalities so that you can move business forward.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Kristen hates it when I schmooze. She hates it when I schmooze.
And I do think it's important though that we do teach our daughters and other women how to do business with men. And I, you know, I've spoken a lot about this in the past, that, you know, while I am a tremendous supporter of women's groups, and especially women's groups like this, because you need that empowerment, you need that support system. Don't isolate yourself, because if you can't do business with men and you don't know how to, you know, network and work with everybody, you're going to struggle in, you know, politics, business, right? Because unfortunately, it's not just a women-centered world, right? And so I think you have to be a little bit cognizant of that. And there's also value in being underestimated, you know. So I think I've benefited in my career of being underestimated by men, and they don't see you coming, and use it to your advantage, right? Because when people don't take you seriously, or they don't give you enough credibility, they're quite surprised with what you can actually do. And it's usually a pleasant surprise, right? And so there's fun in that too. So I enjoy being underestimated sometimes in a male-dominated sector, because I have fun with it. And that's good.
That's exactly it.
Yeah,
We have fun with it.
Yeah, it is fun.
Yeah, well done, ladies. So thank you so much. First of all, this has been a great opportunity for me. I've had a blast. It's so nice spending time with you and getting to know you. And thank you for being so genuine and for disclosing things and insight and things that you've learned, and some valuable pointers and your perspective. It's just really, yeah, it's fun, and it's also very validating for women, generally speaking, and for me as one. But it's been a heck of an evening, so thank you so much. And I really appreciate you carving out some time and being available and being genuine and answering from your heart and sharing everything that you have this evening. It's been wonderful. And I also want to thank everyone who registered for the event, as you're truly the reason and motivation behind doing these, and bringing forward women that are actually walking the walk and talking the talk. And so it's just great. We do have more fireside chats planned, so please stay tuned. We'll keep you all apprised in social media and on our website. If you're interested in our mentorship program, again, the information has been shared for this evening by Kylie. And so thank you so much. I've enjoyed it tremendously. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening and stay safe.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for the invite. This is fun.
Madge, yeah, thanks, Madge. If I could, I just realized that your worship Cheryl Fort's on the call tonight too. So I didn't. My apologies that I didn't notice that earlier. Her name just seemed to pop up on the screen. So I wanted to give a shout out to your worship as Cheryl on the line as well tonight with us. So hi, Cheryl. And you know, Cheryl and I, and I know Kristen has a great relationship with Cheryl too. And you know, when we talk about having that safe circle of friends to have chit chat with, she's definitely on my list of those women that we can call up and have a chit chat with. So I just wanted to do a shout out there, because it's hiding behind my laptop, which is behind my big monitor. So I just saw that her name was there.
Well, I'm so glad you said that, because I had missed that too. I'd been scrolling through the participants and I'd missed her name until now. So thank you so much. Otherwise, we would have all been remiss for not mentioning that. But hi, Cheryl.
Hi, everyone. It's been a great night. Thank you. I enjoyed it all. This is great. And I agree with everything that was said. Yes, you need a good circle of support.
And it's excellent. And I'm so glad you joined our circle for this evening, and all of you. So enjoy the rest of your night Stay safe, and we'll see you when it gets back to the new normal. Maybe in
Yeah,
person.
stay sane, everyone.
Yeah.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you so much.